Good evening. Good evening. Welcome to the launch of the Black Women's Roundtable Wealth Builder Series. My name is Melanie Campbell. I'm President and CEO of the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation and National Convener of the Black Women's Roundtable. The co-founder of the National Coalition is Thomas W. Deutsch Jr. Institute, anchored at Clark Atlanta University. Since its inception in 2009, the Black Women's Roundtable has had as one of our goals to promote economic security and prosperity as key elements of success for Black women. The Wealth Builder series is a part of the Black Women's Roundtable's digital equity, connectivity, and women's economic empowerment project, supported by Goldman Sachs. This project is housed at the Thomas W. Deutsch Jr. Institute. The Black Women's Roundtable, along with the Institute, have a common goal of advancing economic empowerment and social justice for Black people. We are launching this Wealth Builder series at a critical moment in our nation, where the federal government workers are being laid off and are furloughed during this federal government shutdown. This is having a devastating impact on our families. Black, white, all of us, urban, rural, doesn't matter. It's having a negative effect. And we know for Black women, there's an even greater impact, who are experiencing the highest unemployment rate of any group in our nation as a result of the federal government layoffs and the furloughs that have impacted federal employees and government contractors and subcontractors. It is our hope that this series of 6 sessions will help to address this current faces the current challenges that Black women are facing, our communities are facing, by helping job seekers with skills for job or career transitions and advancement, and providing aspiring and established business owners with tools to start or grow their businesses. And now it is my pleasure to turn the discussion over to our director of the National Coalition's Thomas W. Deutsch Jr. Institute, to Ms. Janice Mathis, to take us through the next phase of the conversation. Thank you, Jocelyn and Ebony and team, and all of you, and Dr. Avis, and everyone I see on the screen, and those that will be listening, for joining us for this conversation that really is about making sure that we use all the tools to make sure that our communities are empowerment, especially Black women, who most of us are heads of household, to make sure we have all the tools we need to be successful so that our families are successful and our communities are successful. Janice?
Well, thank you, President Campbell, for including me in this. I am very pleased to introduce our very knowledgeable and experienced senior policy advisor who will moderate tonight's discussion. This is an important discussion, and there's nobody better than our very own senior advisor on policy, advocacy, and strategy, Jocelyn Tate. She is the CEO and founder of Tate Strategies, where she advises organizations on advocacy, on telecom, tech, and broadband policy issues. She is indeed a policy expert. Her strategist advice focuses on the critical topics of intersectionality, where civil rights, racial and gender equity, and the use of and access to technology meet. Ms. Tate is Senior Policy Advisor, as I said before, to the National Coalition on Black Civic Participation and the Black Women's Roundtable. Jocelyn Tate is the co-founder of Make Information Technology for Change Innovation Hub. Make It for Change Innovation Hub. This is an organization that empowers youth and adults to create technology to spur social change. Previously, Ms. Tate worked on Capitol Hill for 2 members of Congress, Her portfolio of policy issues included telecommunications and technology, foreign affairs, and healthcare. She served on the board of directors of the Universal Service Administrative Company, where she managed the administration of the critically important Universal Service Fund that provides access to affordable telecommunications services throughout the United States. Ms. Tate was a member of the United States delegation to the World Conference on International Telecommunications, where she advised on treaty proposals negotiated on behalf of the United States of America. She also served as Director of Broadband and Telecommunications Policy at the Minority Media, Telecom, and Internet Council. Joycelyn earned a BA from Howard University, a JD, a law degree from Columbus School of Law at Catholic University, a certificate of specialization from the Law and Technology Institute at the Columbus School of Law, and a graduate certificate in international studies with regional study on China from the School of Advanced International Studies at the Johns Hopkins University. So you see, she's eminently qualified. And I can tell you from my experience in working with Joycelyn, not only is she qualified and experienced, she loves this work and she loves sharing her knowledge with people. So you're in good hands for tonight's discussion. Joycelyn.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Janice. I wasn't expecting all of that, but thank you. First, I want to introduce both of our speakers tonight. You all are in for a treat, I tell you. First, I'll just give them their names and I'll introduce them both and then we'll just let them go. First, Anne Marie Ortanes. She is a career coach. She has worked as a leader, worked as a chief of staff and other leadership positions she's held with companies like Microsoft, Apple, Disney, and even startup companies. So you see, she is very well suited to talk to you about moving and pivoting from jobs because she's worked in so many fields. She has the perspective from working with startups to multi-billion dollars companies. She is an author of the book, The Chief of Staff. So I'm not going to hold this up. We're going to have as our first panelist will be Anne Marie Ortanes. And then our second panelist up will be Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver. And let me take a big breath because I got to say a lot about Dr. DeWeaver. He's an award-winning author. She authored How Exceptional Black Women Lead. She is the founder and CEO of the Exceptional Black Women Network, where she elevates Black women to levels of power and success. She's a TV commentator. She's a contributing writer to magazines like Black Enterprise, Enterprise Magazine, Huffington Post. She was the executive director of NCNW. She's been a policy researcher. I'm going to stop right there because, my God, I'm running out of breath. So I'm going to turn the floor over to our panelists for this evening. Like I said, you all are in for a treat because they have a wealth of information. And we'll start with you, Anne Marie. Anne Marie, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Let me go ahead and share my slides. And if folks can let me know if they can see my slides.
Yes.
Awesome, awesome. So thank you so much for this opportunity to present some information, some perspectives to this wonderful audience. I'm eternally grateful because I have an opportunity to share this panel with my coach, my mentor, my sponsor, my friend, Dr. Avis. And so this is an absolute delight. And I've got so much that I want to share. I've got 25 minutes to cram all this information. And so I'm going to do my best to provide you with a lot of perspectives. And at the end of my presentation, I also will provide my contact information for those of you who want to reach out. If you see an opportunity for us to be able to work together, I would love to do that. So we're going to be talking about brand power and how do you build and leverage your professional brand to attract the opportunities that you deserve. So before I start into that, I want to tell you a little bit more about myself. So as Jocelyn had mentioned, I am a chief of staff A couple years ago, I wrote a book about the chief of staff, and I received such wonderful reception to it that I'm in the process of writing my second, and I'm going to do a third. I am a trilogy geek, so I have to write a trilogy, and so there will be 3 books. And I also wanted to share a little bit about the organizations that I have worked at, so it provides you with why I can show up the way that I do and share the information that I share. Currently, I work as a chief of staff at Microsoft, supporting our CTO. Previously, I supported our corporate vice presidents. I was at Apple, Netscape, Intermountain Healthcare, and I'm currently on the executive board for the Utah Black Chamber of Commerce. And that's given me an opportunity to really understand the needs of our community here in Utah and how to support those needs. Along those lines, when I talked about a little bit of who I am, I want you also to understand that I've created a program for people who are curious about the chief of staff role. They're existing chief of staffs, or they're executives who don't know how to plug that role in succinctly. And so the Chief of Staff Academy is an accredited program that anybody can enroll in, and it takes you through the core competencies of how to be a successful chief of staff. I'm an executive coach. I work with people one-on-one and in groups. We develop their career framework, their career plan, and try to achieve their goals. Today, the hot button is AI. And so I have learned all about prompt engineering, and I teach people how to use AI today. So when you attend one of my workshops, you don't have AI for the next job or the next year. You walk away from this workshop knowing exactly how you can utilize AI in your current space. So I want it to be relevant and applicable to everybody's current situation. And the last thing that I wanted to share is that I have a chief of staff podcast. It's me and one of my coworkers from Microsoft. She was an executive assistant to one of our senior executive vice presidents for 20 years. There's a lot of confusion out there over what is a chief of staff, what is an EA, are they the same thing? They are 2 very different and distinct roles. And we have a conversation about those differences. How do you lean in? How do you lean out? How do you make sure that you are positioned to support the organization and those leaders to achieve that goal? Some of the magazines that I've been able to be part of is Utah Business Magazine, Workplace Times, Max Media Productions, A Bold New Journey. This next month, I'll be presenting at one of the largest EA conferences called Your Next Bold Move for administrators and strategic operators who are looking to understand how they can potentially be a chief of staff. I'll be traveling to Canada to the Black Futures Conference, which is the largest gathering of Black professionals in Canada. They have over 20,000 registrants for this particular conference this year alone. And then I'll close out my November with a visit to London. The CPD is the Continuing Professional Development Association, which accredited my class, my workshop, and they usually have about 5,000 to 8,000 attendees, and I will be keynoting for the first time. So I'm very excited about that. And then I end my year off with speaking at my alma mater, the University of Utah, to their executive MBAs and their women MBAs. So that's a little bit more about me. So as I go through this presentation, I'm going to drop what I called my Dr. Avis's isms. And she's not seen my presentation. She doesn't know what I'm talking about. So, just so you know, again, Dr. Avis has been life-changing for me. And everything that she teaches, I try to implement. And I usually immediately see success. And so one of the things that she always stresses is, what is your why? And so when we talk about brand, I want you to also think about your why. When I started working with Dr. Avis, my why was my 4 beautiful nieces. I wanted them to know that they could do and be anything. I did not have access to the resources that they have. And like it was said earlier, there is an attack on Black women. And we have to shore up everything that we can so we can access those resources so we can not only stand out, but if we need to create those spaces where we can excel, we are able to create those spaces where we excel. And so my why started with my 4 beautiful nieces. My why changed in August. And because Again, Dr. Avis is the one who invited me to this group. I feel comfortable being somewhat vulnerable with you all. And so my why has changed to this little one, Milagro Lupe. My husband and I have been married for 8 years. We have tried everything in 8 years. Naturally, IVF. We got to a point where we thought we were going to foster. And then, being the age that we were, we thought we'll never get a newborn, so we're going to get older children. And by a miracle, this little one was an opportunity for her, which is why her name is Milagro, because milagro means miracle in Spanish. And so this is my why. I am even more emboldened to do what I'm doing and grasp everything I can get from Dr. Avis. I'm excited that I get to listen to her after I speak. So the student is still the student, learning from the master. But we want to talk about your why. And when you think about your why, you have to start to look at what are the gaps that you may be presented with. And so what is standing between you and your goals? Again, as Black women, we have these invisible barriers that stop us from being able to achieve the things that we need to achieve. And so we go through these Herculean efforts to be able to just show up and just to be equal, not even exceptional, just to be equal. And so you've got to think about where are the gaps in what you're doing, the perceptions, the things that are happening, and how can you close those gaps? And so the three that I've identified is the perception gap, the digital gap, and the confidence gap. The perception gap is really how do you see yourself and how do others see you? If there's not alignment there, it will cost you promotions. It will cost you partnerships. It will cost you opportunities. Sometimes we underestimate the impact that we have. And if we underestimate our impact, others don't see it at all. So you want to understand what is the perception? What do people believe that you are bringing to the table versus what you know? The digital gap. I mentioned earlier, AI is the buzz right now. If you're not using AI every day, you're behind. That's why it's important to understand what is the tool, what is the next thing, and AI has been weaponized, which makes me sad because all we hear is AI is going to take our jobs, and it's doing a good job of taking some individuals' jobs. If you learn how to use this tool, you can empower yourself and it becomes one of the other tools in your pocket. So what is going on in the digital landscape that you've got to learn? You've got to take a class. You've got to make sure you understand what's going on. The final one is the confidence gap. Sometimes we call this imposter syndrome. How do you see yourself? When we minimize our achievements, when we soften our voices, to make others comfortable, it diminishes our power. There's been this, I call it cultural conditioning, where women have to be docile. They've got to be quiet. They've got to be humble. You can be those things, but do not diminish your light and understand how being in the shadows, if that's what you choose, but still have a light, will help you show up. And so when we look at these three gaps, I want to talk to you about the three pillars of a powerful brand: clarity, credibility, and consistency. Let me break this down for you. Clarity, you need to ask yourself, what do I want to be known for? What do people consistently seek my help with? And what are the results that I create for others? And so how do you create a brand statement about yourself? I help, who is the person you're helping, achieve, what are you helping them achieve, and how? So for me, my brand statement is I help chief of staffs, I help executives and strategic operators achieve clarity, confidence, and organizational impact by teaching them how to lead strategically, communicate effectively, and build a scalable system of execution. When you go back and you look at what is your brand statement, you can use this little prompt that I've shared with you to create what your brand statement is and make sure it reflects you and your values authentically. The next thing is credibility. Receipts. We're all about receipts. We want to make sure that we show our receipts. Receipts is the proof that you have impact. When I worked at Intermountain Healthcare, I was one of their first project managers, and it was a very flat organization. And I went about doing my projects. I loved being a project manager. And then they started giving me the hard projects, the red projects. A red project is a project that is off course and they're not quite sure how to bring it back on course. And so I would go in and I would bring it back on course. So they'd give me another one. All right, bring it back on course. They'd give me another one. So I went to my boss and I said, you give me all these red projects. I'm not getting a bonus. So I want something. I want to be a manager. And he said, absolutely, finish this last one and I'll make you a manager. I got a team of 17 people. I started creating processes, procedures. I created how they were going to interact with executives. I created the whole gamut. I got to know all of our senior level executives. When I would go into a room and I was speaking, I was amazed because the room got silent. And I was in a room where it was only my face. I didn't see anybody else that looked like me. But because I had consistently been delivering, they knew that if I was going to say something, it was very intentional. Following that, he actually created 2 other managers. He had me train those managers, and they used my framework to build their organization. That was my receipt. That was my gold. And so when you think about the things that you're achieving, I always tell the people that I mentor and I coach, write down what you've achieved in that moment. And if you work for a corporate entity and they use feedback for your promotions, you ask people immediately to provide you with feedback, because what you remember in a day versus a month will be different, versus 3 months will be different. So you want it to be fresh. So when you have that receipt, you'll be like, oh yeah, that's what I did. And I did all of these things. The next and final pillar is consistency. Just be the same everywhere. It seems like this is an easy thing, but trust is built through repetition and reliability. And what I mean by that, I've had clients where they're looking for a job, they have got their resume, and their LinkedIn doesn't look anything like their resume. And we know today that every employer goes in and they want to look at your profile. Make sure that there's consistency there. In-person interactions, we don't have a lot of those, but when you have those interactions, remember, how are you showing up? What is the message? How can you reach out to that person to make sure that what you present in person is the same thing that you're presenting online? Your elevator pitch, it could be the same thing as your brand statement, something quick that you can be known for and that you can repeat. And then with your social presence, you may have different messaging for different platforms, but the overlying message should be the same. And so just remember that there needs to be consistency everywhere. What are your next steps? Like I said, 20 minutes is a short amount of time to fit in a lot of information. And so I want to make sure that I get the meat. 1, audit your brand. Google yourself. Review your profiles. Ask friends and colleagues, how do they perceive you? What do they think your strengths are? What are your gaps? And that will help you with what is your intentional positioning. Update your story. When was the last time you looked at your LinkedIn and cleaned it up? And then finally, just show up with purpose. Your brand, it's your bridge. It's where you are and where you deserve to be. So start today. I want to close with 2 stories, but before I move to those 2 stories, I want to be able to stay connected with you. With this QR code, it will give you access to my calendar, some links about me, anything that you would need. I would love to chat with you if you would like to learn a little bit more about brand building and how, like I said, I could only fit in so much, and there's so much more that I can share that I want to share. And so please connect with me. So let me close off with these 2 stories. I want to share a strong brand story and a weak brand story. The first one is the story of Nike. And the theme with Nike is purpose, consistency, and emotional connection. Now, Nike was founded in 1964, and they were called the Blue Ribbon Sports Organization, and they were not the giant that we know today. Their rise came from being relentless. They wanted to empower athletes. And their consistent message, we all know it, just do it. Anytime you see a swoosh, just do it, you know it's Nike. So how did Nike build a strong brand over time? One, they had a clear vision and identity, their mission. Let me read to you what Nike's mission is: to bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. That's timeless. It means anybody can be an athlete. It wasn't this elite club or anything. They redefined athlete to include everybody. That expanded their reach. And there was an emotional resonance for people who may not have thought that they were athletes. And all of a sudden, they saw themselves as athletes. Storytelling. Nike is a boss when it comes to storytelling. Their campaigns would feature people like Michael Jordan, Serena Williams, and Colin Kaepernick. And they would have emotional narratives around their stories that included perseverance and self-belief. Nike wasn't just about selling shoes. It was about a belief in yourself. And then they were consistent across all of their platforms, from marketing to advertising, the digital experience. They maintained their consistent voice. Their voice was motivational, it was bold, and it was authentic. The thing about Nike that I truly loved was their cultural relevance. They would take a stand on social issues. Sometimes it was risky, but those of us that were loyal to the Nike brand, we saw Nike as a movement, not just a company. The second organization that I want to talk to you about is one that is a very well-known organization that has pretty much disappeared: Sears. We all remember Sears. Sears was the retail king. They built their empire in the 20th century, and they actually pioneered catalog shopping. And they sold everything from tools to housewares, appliances. But by the 2000s, they collapsed. And how did this giant lose their brand power? Lack of focus. Sears never really clarified what they were or what they wanted to stand for. We weren't sure if they were a department store, a hardware store, a financial services company. When you are unsure about your brand and your focus, it erodes your identity. And that's what started happening to Sears. Their identity was getting eroded. Failure to evolve. What is happening out there, and what is it that you need to learn? They had competitors like Walmart they were running to the digital space. Amazon was on the scene, embracing digital transformation. Sears, their online experience was old and outdated, and it just lagged. And it was a bad customer experience. The thing that really hurt Sears was they stopped telling a story that mattered to its customers. Where Nike was inspiring people, Sears was just selling things. And shoppers just stopped feeling a connection with them. And this household name that pioneered so much went bankrupt in 2018. So when you think about your brand, like I said, you've got to make sure that you understand what is your vision, what is your why. That's the most important thing. And then learning how to make changes. Another one of Dr. Avis' isms is the power of the pivot. She is the pivot queen. I have never seen somebody adjust to what was going on so fast, and I'm learning by her example. But you've got to be able to pivot and make the changes and know what are the spaces that you need to be in, what are the things that you need to learn, and ask for help. Thank you so much for just letting me spend a few minutes sharing some information with you. Like I said, not enough time to go through everything. Scan my QR code, reach out to me on LinkedIn. I would be happy to connect. And thank you again for including me on a panel with one of the most amazing people on the planet, Dr. Avis.
Thank you so much, Anne Marie, for those nuggets. And again, scan her QR code so you can get in contact with her. And Anna Marie, what you might want to do is also put your information in the chat so you can share it with people so that they can get in contact with you via email as well. You know, it's very important that we have that consistent brand that you were talking about. And we've got to show up the same way all the time on every platform and in person. So that's all of those nuggets that you were giving us were fantastic of information. If you're pivot in advance in your career and move to the place that you see yourself and you want to be. So next up, we are going to have Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver. She's going to share with you, okay, we've talked about what to do if you want to pivot and move in your job search. But what about those people who maybe you've always had that side hustle and you've decided now is the time that you want to take that, what they call the side hustle, and make that your number one, your main gig, as they say. Or if you've always thought about being an entrepreneur and you just never acted on it. We're going to hear from Dr. DeWeaver about how to make that pivot. So Dr. DeWeaver, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Hi, everybody. Wonderful to see you. Before I get started, I have to say, your check is in the mail, Anne Marie. No, I'm just joking. But thank you so much for all of those kind words. I too am excited to be here this evening to contribute to this conversation because this is a critically important time for all of you to really take advantage of everything that you'll be hearing today. I think it makes sense right now to maximize your career opportunities. And if you're interested in business, at the same time, start your business so you can have two lanes of revenue coming in. If at all possible. In this moment, you need to be able to have backup after backup after backup of opportunities. So I'm excited to be able to share with you my perspectives on what I like to call how to pivot to your power, right? Going from disruption to domination. So I want to start off by, I guess, kind of stating the obvious. And the obvious is this. We are in a crisis, okay? We're in a crisis mode right now. We've not seen anything like this, obviously, in our lifetimes. However, the last time that we saw this level of destruction, I would say we'd have to go all the way back to 1877 and the post-Reconstruction period, where we've seen such an unrelenting assault on our advancements and our rights and our economic positioning in the society in a way that seems to have been very much targeted to us. So in the very first few months of this year, even though people are mentioning still this statistic about 300,000 Black women losing their jobs, I want you to understand that just happened in the first 3 months of the year. It's more than that now. Okay? It's more than that now. But we know that during the first 3 months of the year, Black women were disproportionately targeted by the huge assault on federal workers throughout this nation. In addition to that, you saw the disruptions that were put in place with DOGE, where billions of dollars, specifically $145 billion worth of federal contracts were canceled overnight, eliminating some over 12,000 federal contracts. And if you're an entrepreneur where you were relying on federal contracts as one of your main sources of revenue, just imagine how devastating that must have been for tons of people, thousands of people, of entrepreneurs all across this nation. And even beyond that, the DEI focus and attacks on DEI has not only canceled opportunities in the federal workforce, but also corporations have been strong-armed into, in many spaces, eliminating their commitments. Now, we are here because for many reasons, certain organizations have stayed true to their commitment. We're very happy that Goldman Sachs is supporting this work for you all tonight. But a lot of organizations have pulled back from their DEI commitments. And I want you to understand that isn't just an issue that affects quote unquote DEI professionals. That is a position that impacts your opportunities if you're looking to even gain employment within those organizations or to get promotions within those organizations, because largely a lot of that DEI work was really about making sure that everybody get a fair shot for those opportunities. Some initial research that I am seeing in this moment post DEI is that what we're seeing right now is a huge drop in the number of Black women who are gaining employment, a huge drop in the number of Black women who are getting promotions, and we're seeing increases in employment and promotion opportunities experienced by white men and white women. Okay, So I want you to understand this is a very disruptive moment that we are living in right now. But because of all of this going on right now, we know, as I mentioned, that we as Black women especially have been disproportionately impacted. When we look at the federal workforce reduction that has happened in the last several months, um, it's disproportionately impacted us. 33% of Black women in the federal workforce have lost their jobs, a third. Okay. That contrasts with 3.7% of federal workforce individuals overall. All right. So just know that it is as if someone really took a scalpel and say, how can we undermine the career success of Black women in the federal workforce? That is the ultimate impact of what we've seen that's happened. And as a result, as was mentioned at the top, we've seen these historic unemployment rates really jumping from, it's really ironic. Under the previous administration, we had historic lows in Black unemployment, and now we're inching towards historic highs in Black unemployment, generally speaking, and Black women's unemployment specifically. All right. So, what do we do in this moment? Okay. So, in order to address this moment properly, where we're not stuck in this feeling of woe and fear and concern about what are we going to do given all these attacks, I think it's important that we take back our power. In fact, I think it's important that we recognize that we have power. And I think that it's important that we lean into our power in a way that will allow you to emerge from this situation. That if you've been impacted by anything that I've said thus far, I want you to hear me when I say that you can emerge from this situation better than what you were before. When you embrace the power that lives within you. And today we're going to talk about 5 steps to do that, that could help you really be able to leverage the power of entrepreneurship as a new direction that could allow you to get some economic footing and to come out of this moment even better than you were before. All right, so let's start in that direction. Power pivot move number 1. The very first thing I want you to do when you're thinking about potentially starting a business and monetizing your expertise in some area, I want you to, first of all, let any limits that you might have on your possibilities erode. I want you to understand that the very first step in building a successful business is not mitigating your success from the beginning by minimizing what you're shooting for. I often say when I speak to my clients, the very first thing I ask them is like, what do you want? What do you really want? Without limits, without any sort of deference to what I call the worst word in the human language, which is realistic. Like, I want you to sort of eliminate that word from your vocabulary, because in my mind, this word realistic allows you to be okay with mediocrity. It allows you to be okay with what you think is possible. I want you to understand that you might not know yet what's possible for you. Yes, right? And so I want you to think about what you really want without dreams, without limitations, without minimizing it. What really excites you? What energizes you? What aligns with your zones of genius? And I want you to know that whatever that vision is for you, you have to commit to it and understand that it's possible. So be bold enough to think big. And when you think you're thinking big, I want you to think bigger. I want your dreams to be so big that they even seem that it's out of reach. And I want you to understand, if you can conceive it, you can be it. But you have to be brave enough to conceive it and believe in it. Okay? So that is the very first step. You have to be willing to dream without limits. Okay? Next, I want you to really dig deep in really getting very clear about your zones of genius. Now, here is what I want to say before I get deep into this point here. Black women, we are bad, are we not? We are amazing. Yes, you can feel free to give me an amen in the chat if you believe that, okay? Now, here's what I want you to also know about us oftentimes. Oftentimes, we embrace humility. We minimize ourselves. We don't want to stand out. In fact, we are oftentimes castigated for being too much. And so as a protective mechanism from that, I believe some of us go in the extreme, in the opposite direction, where we want to be humble. I want you to give yourself a moment. In fact, I wish you would just totally just kick humility to the curb. It is not helping you. Please understand that it's not helping you. I want you to really look at your fabulosity in its fullness. And it's not about being vain, it's about being very clear about who you are and the power that resides within you. You have to get clear about this first, because what we're looking to do right now is to really locate your monetizable zones of genius. I want you to really think about, what are those areas within my capabilities where I show natural excellence, where I live, breathe, speak excellence, where I show up and it's on point every time just because that is who I am, that is what I be. Like, you can stand up in the middle of any room and talk about something that you know of so well for like 3 hours nonstop, and you just know it that well. That is a zone of excellence. That is something that feels effortless to you. How many of you here have something like that? I would venture to guess that everybody within the sound of my voice can identify at least one thing like that, maybe multiple things like that. I want you to understand that if you are that fully immersed in mastery in some area, I would argue that you can get paid for that. Someone will pay you for that. Because just like it just be, it comes easily to you, but understand that it doesn't come easily for most people. Okay? What comes easily to me might not come easily to you, and vice versa. And if I need what you have excellence in, I will pay you for that. I will pay you for that. This is the basis of you beginning to see all those different areas that really can be the foundation of a new business opportunity for you. Okay? Also, I want you to think about, what are those types of things that people often ask you to do for them? Have any of you ever had the experience where several people keep asking you to do pretty much the same thing? Like, people keep tapping you to do something? It's because they see that. And it's probably that thing you just thought of when you thought of that thing that you can do very easily, that point of excellence for you, your zone of genius, right? People see it in you. Here's what I found. Oftentimes, extremely gifted people minimize their gifts specifically because it comes easy to them. Understand that if it comes easy to you, that is an indicator that it is a gifting, it has value. Other people see it, and that's why they're asking you to share it with them in some way, shape, or form. If they are asking you to give it to them, understand that you can ask them to pay for it. Does this make sense? Right? Think about those things that you've done in your past that are major accomplishments. Okay? But they came, and you may have had to work for it. I'm not going to say that every major things that, the other accomplishments that you've had, it may have taken a time to acquire, but at the end of the day, it felt aligned. Like, you could do it, and you did it well. Those are things that typically, those are skills then that you have developed that likely can be monetized. And finally, I want you to think about those talents that you have, just things that you just enjoy doing. Things that maybe are not anywhere near what you do professionally right now or have ever done professionally in the past, like in previous jobs or in your current job, but it's something that you just enjoy doing. Guess what? If you enjoy doing it, you're typically good at it, which means that you might be able to build a business around it. I live in National Harbor, Maryland, and right down the street, there used to be a business. They're not here anymore, but I used to love them. And thank God they're, probably gained a few pounds because of them. But it's some sisters that owned a shop here, Furlough Cheesecake. And they started that business during a previous government furlough, where out of their home, they were baking cheesecakes. They were federal employees. So that was not what they were being paid for in terms of their area of expertise. But it was a talent, it was a gift, it was a skill set. And they took that skill set, that gift, that talent of creating delicious, delicious cheesecakes and ultimately built it into a major business. So you can build businesses around hard talent, skills, um, credentials, areas of expertise, but also they can be around things that you might consider a hobby today. That's also oftentimes monetizable. So I want you to think about all these different possibilities for abilities, skills, talents, things that you do easily, but also excellently. Understand that structured correctly, that could be a source of revenue for you. Okay? Next, understand too that your genius is transferable. Everybody within the sound of my voice right now, you probably currently have a job or you've had a job. So understand that if you have a job or have had a job, that means that you have a skill set that is monetizable. It's just that you were using that skill set to make somebody else a lot of money. Now, certainly you got paid, right? That was your salary. But trust and believe you were bringing in more money than you were getting paid, or else that's the point of having, there would not be a profit, right? For the person who employed you, right? So just think about you're bringing in money, a lot of money for other organizations. If you're a federal employee or were a federal employee, you were helping the government in some way that far exceeded the value of what they were paying you. Understand. So, whatever skills that you used in your job, okay, understand that if you could use that skill to make money for somebody else, you can use that very same skill to make money for yourself. Your genius is transferable to other situations, even other employment opportunities, but it's also transferable to your own opportunity to make money for you. It's not, it transcends any professional title that you have. It's not limited by the specific industry that you find yourself in now. There's a, and it's really not dependent upon who's in the White House. Let's just be real. Your genius is transferable. You just have to start to expand your vision around the different ways that you can direct it so that you can now monetize it for your own benefit. All right. Next, I want you to understand, if I can get this thing to turn. All right. Why is it stuck? There we go. Okay. Power pivot number 3. Your market intelligence mission. What I'm referring to here is I want you, if you're thinking about starting a business and you understand, hey, I'm passionate about this thing. I love doing this, whatever. This thing really lights me up. I'm very, very good at it. I'm thinking about starting a business in it. I want you to be strategic, though, about moving into the marketplace as a business owner. Okay. And what I mean by that is, I want you to be very, very thoughtful about how you enter so that you can be successful once you enter. And one of the most important things you need to do then, before you actually just go out there and just, hello, I'm here, but buy from me, is do a little market research, right? Start to gather some intelligence. And what I want you to do is, in doing this, it's going to allow you to really be clear about how your expertise, your skill sets, what you are thinking of doing fits the current demands in the marketplace. So here are some things that I suggest that you do just to make sure that you are really zoning in on an area that can pay off for you handsomely, okay, as an independent entrepreneur. Number 1, I would suggest that you have conversations with people around you that are potential clients. Ask them about some of their critical needs or their critical desires. What are some of their biggest challenges? How would they like those challenges addressed? Or maybe they're just things that they just want, right? They just want, maybe it's I want to be able to, in terms of the cheesecake example, I want to be able to have, a sweet potato cheesecake every now and then, right? So think about conversations that you can have with people. And the reason why I want you to do that is I want you to be able to hone in on this idea so that it has its greatest chance of success right from the start. It's nothing more discouraging than saying grand opening and nobody's buying. Well, maybe you haven't done enough conversations and research beforehand to make sure that the demand is there before you enter the market. Secondly, I want you to do an analysis of some of your competitors, okay? Look at people who are in the marketplace that are doing something similar to what you would like to do. And the first thing I will say about that is do not be discouraged if you are saying, oh, well, I'd like to do X, Y, Z, but there's somebody else that's already doing it and it's great. Honestly, that's a good omen. It's actually a good sign. It's a bad sign if you want to do something and through your research, you find that no one else is doing it. And the reason why that's a bad sign is because there are very, very few brand new things under the sun. So that if you find that there are other people out there already doing some version of what you want to do, that really counts as proof that there is a market for what you want to do. So that means there are people out there that are buying something similar to what you need to do. All right. So that's actually a good thing. So what you do want to do though is take a look at some of these competitors, find out what are they doing? What are they offering? How are they delivering? What are some things that they're doing well? What are some things that they're not doing so well that you think you could do better? And as you're doing that, you're going to do what I like to call the gap identification, right? You're going to identify those specific gaps between what clients really, really want that you were able to determine from the interviews that you had that I said at the very beginning, and what the competitors are not adequately providing once you do your competitive analysis. So maybe from those initial conversations, you are hearing several of your potential clients talking about they want this one thing, this one need fulfilled, but they haven't been able to find anyone that fulfills it the way they want to. There's something that's lacking in terms of the options that are currently on the marketplace. And as you're doing your competitive analysis, you can see these people really aren't addressing some of the needs that my folk are saying that they want. Well, guess what? You found the gap. And that's wonderful because now you've created a little niche for yourself that you can fulfill and fulfill in a powerful way because now you know there is a demand for it. And this is a space that other people are not adequately fulfilling that desire. So you can step in right there. And oftentimes that can be your segue to your very first clients. All right. So now, as you're having these conversations, you're going to go from once again, problem detection. What are some of the urgent challenges and desires that your target market has? You're going to look for their pain points. You're going to look for the problems that they need solved. I oftentimes would say I should do a lot of training on entrepreneurship in different countries around the world. And every time I would start a presentation, I would say, businesses are essentially the monetization of solutions, right? What are some of the problems that people are talking about they're having right now that you can solve with your zones of genius? Number two, demand discovery. Where is money actively flowing right now? This is very, very critical. The market has changed. Everything has changed. Things are not the same as it was 12 months ago. Absolutely not. There are some areas where money was flowing like gangbusters a few years ago that is now like a trickle, okay? But there are other areas where that money has been redirected. Understand that money does not disappear. It merely redirects. Please hear me on that. Do you think that if some organization eliminated their DEI program, do you think the money that they had allocated for that just disappeared? Let me know in the comments, yes or no. Absolutely not. So now you have to figure out where's the money at now? Where's the money flowing? And is it flowing in a direction that intersects with my skills, my abilities, my desires, those things that light me up, right? What solutions then can I create that I can then target to people and organizations who are willing to pay premium prices in order to get that issue addressed today without hesitations, without hemming and hawing? That exists. You have to be a little detective and find it, okay? Once again, taking a look at that competitive landscape, who are you up against? The gaps, we talked about that. But also, it's important to think about future casting. What things do you see emerging on the horizon? Anne-Marie, as she mentioned, is a genius when it comes to AI and how to be able to leverage that. Understand that's That's here now, but it's also on the horizon. It's changing every day. It's expanding. And there are a lot of people out there that know that they don't know it very well, right? So I think she's done a tremendous job of future casting with providing this specific area of expertise within her business around leveraging AI for chiefs of staffs, right? And people in corporate to be able to do their job more efficiently and effectively. Genius. I want you to think about how can you future cast? It's about figuring out where the ball is going, not where the ball is necessarily at today. And how can you position yourself to be ahead of the curve? All right. Power pivot move number 4, ready the runway. So now I want you to get ready to launch. Okay. In other words, this is about really thinking about, okay, I have this idea, I have this thing I know I'm good at, I have this thing I'm passionate at, I've done my sort of little due diligence around doing a little bit of market research, finding out what the problems are, what people really want, looking at my competitors, what are they not doing, where is the gap. Now I think I have an idea about what I want to do. Now how do I transition from where I am to actually getting my business up and out successfully, such that I can start making money without losing momentum, having a bumpy start. And I'm using this runway analogy very, very specifically and intentionally here because I want you to understand. For example, if you're on a plane, if you're getting ready to take off in a plane, you're not going to go straight up in the sky. Okay, that ain't happening. Okay, your plane is going to build up speed on that runway, and then eventually, it'll slowly start to go up in the atmosphere. And this is how I want you to think about your business right now. If you have a job right now, I would suggest you keep that job or some other source of revenue coming in while you are getting your business started and launched. I would not suggest a hard stop only to have to make up that time, that runway time, with getting that business started. Some of you might be in the unfortunate position where you don't have that opportunity. That's okay. But let's just know that it's going to take a little bit of a runway to get that thing started. Okay. So here's what you don't need. I think it's very important that I say to the most educated demographic group in America, Black women, what you don't need is another degree or certification. 9 times out of 10, you don't need that. We overly index there. And I would argue that I would rather you spend that time getting your plane up through the runway and launched. As Anne-Marie lightly mentioned, I pivoted several times in my career from college professor to a DC professional policy expert to a DEI professional very, very early on, to a business coach, and all of that. So I pivoted, and I'm pivoting right now to do more work sort of in the research policy space again, particularly around ways that we can combat what's going on right now, okay? But the whole point here is that when I've made these shifts, like when I finished graduate school, I was like, that's it, okay? The learning is in the doing, and I would rather you spend this time actually moving forward. Know too that you don't need external validation or approval to make that next step. Just make the decision and move, period. You don't need permission from gatekeepers. If there is one gatekeeper at one door, guess what? That ain't the only door in the world. Go to another one. You don't need years of additional preparation. Absolutely not. Who has time for that? Okay. If you have a little beautiful baby like Anne-Marie has, they need to eat every day. Don't they? Hello. We ain't got time for this. Okay. So now is the time to just move forward, but move forward strategically. This is what you need to do. You need to have a strategic pivot point that takes aim and makes your claim in your new area before you even land there. So you need to take up space in the new area that you're targeting before you fully land. That's part of the runway preparation process. And I want to talk about that in a minute. You need to do that, and you have a parallel runway where you're maintaining revenue. As I mentioned, if you have a job right now, I would suggest that if you want to start a business, don't quit the job to start the business. Keep the job and start the business at the same time. Okay, this is going to be parallel runways here. Okay, authority assist that demonstrate your expertise. We're going to talk about this in a minute, but You need to make sure that you are doing things that elevate your authority, as Anne-Marie was referring to. In other words, build your brand in the new space that you're going before you get there, so that when you land there, you land with credibility. And then finally, you have to have the audacity to claim the space. I know when I first started in DEI many, many years ago, most people in that space had degrees in HR. Most people in that space had specific DEI certifications. I had none of that and was not trying to go back to school to get it. I'll be perfectly honest. When I got my PhD, I was like, that's enough. Okay. But what did I do? Right? I thought about my areas of expertise, the things that I knew well, the things that I did well that differentiated me from the competition, that actually could give me a head up on some of the other people who had gone the more traditional route. I wrote a book that was relevant to the area that I was going in, that helped to position me as an authority in that space, right? So then when I land in those spaces, I can claim the space with audacity and say, yes, I belong here. So a big part of this is the confidence to say, I'm here. I may have taken a different route to get here, but I'm here. I deserve to be here. I bring value to this space, and now I am going to rise without your permission, without worrying about gatekeepers. You have to claim authority rather than asking for permission for someone to give it. Okay. Next, quickly about the pivot points. What can you do? You can create a groundbreaking publication. It doesn't have to be a full book. I think books are great. But even if it's not a full book, you can write a guide of some sort, a white paper, a research report, something that show, even a op-ed could be a publication in a very prestigious place, can really position you as an expert in the new area that you're going before you land there. You can do a TED Talk that, once again, it's in the area that you're going before you land there. You can do other things that really help to prove yourself as a thought leader in that space. So this is about other pieces of content. You can be a leading voice on LinkedIn, for example. Have other sort of articles that you can write. You can lean into the power of the media, podcast, have your own digital show. In some way, you need to be letting the world know about your expertise in the new area that you're going before you fully arrive there, because that's going to help you to be able to more quickly monetize that space, have legitimacy, and gain new clients. Okay. Power pivot move number 5. This is my final one. Leveraging monetizable networks. Everyone within the sound of my voice, if you know that you want to start a new business now, I guarantee you your first clients, you already know. You can always, your first clients will likely be within a circle of someone that's already in your network. That's the first place for you to tap. It's not going to be your only. Now, please know, and please don't expect your friends and family to be the core of your business. They will not be. And honestly, if that was the case, think about how limited your business would be. You want people around the world ultimately to know about your business. But to start, okay, it will likely start with your network. So the first thing you need to do is identify decision makers. Who do you already know who has decision-making power over budgets, or who can connect you with people that have decision-making power over budgets? First priority, find out who those people are, make a list of them. Number 2, rekindle relationships. Are there people that you know that maybe you've grown distant with over time, but given where you want to go and your area of expertise, you know that it would be mutually beneficial for you to be able to help them, okay? And also for them to be able to help you and your business. Now's the time to start to rekindle those conversations and rekindle those relationships. And then number 3, strategic service. Who do you know that you would love to be able to work with? But right now you're just starting to get your feet wet in your new space. Be willing to help them. Just literally be of service to them. Understand that, honestly, I believe that with sales, you have to, especially with all sales, you really have to tap into the law of reciprocity. Expect to give before you expect to receive. Be willing to give before you expect to receive. Now, don't stay stuck in the giving mode because you do need to get paid, but There are different ways that you can give, and we can talk about that at another time. But understand that when you are getting started, these are some of the ways that you're going to get your first clients, and that will be by leveraging and growing a monetizable network. Alrighty. So, what is that monetizable network and what isn't it? It is not just your LinkedIn connections. It's not your Instagram followers. It's not just the people that you may have on your email list if you have an email list. It's not just showing up at random networking events and hoping that a miracle is going to happen. It is not that. But what it is, it's an ecosystem of strategic relationships that you have cultivated and nurtured over time, right? That can open doors for you that you didn't even know existed and help you generate revenue that you haven't yet imagined. It's powerful. And if you don't have that yet, guess what? Start building it now, even as you are working for someone else. And so that, please, this is one other thing I will say. Don't make the mistake of limiting your network to just where you work now. Your network needs to be, yes, within where you work, but it also needs to expand beyond that because your business is likely going to have to be beyond that too. So be strategic about growing and nurturing relationships that can be mutually beneficial, particularly within the direction that you know you want to go. Okay. And then next, sorry, taking a minute for this. I just want to let you know, give you a sense of what's possible. So I had a client who at the very beginning of the year was one of the people who lost major federal contracts. All right. She used to do some major, like multi-million-dollar contracts with the federal government around DEI. She obviously had all of those contracts canceled immediately. And plus, she was quote unquote blacklisted for future work from the federal government throughout the rest of the time that this administration is in office. It really could have decimated her business. Years of building a very successful multi-million-dollar business was seemingly destroyed overnight. So what happened? We did basically what I've walked you through here today, right? We mapped out her genius that included DEI, but was not limited to DEI. Okay. So we thought broader. What else could she do? Right. We helped her activate her network strategically, helped her identify new hungry markets, new spaces that she could pierce that also needed her expertise. She also kept doors open when those clients that remained committed to DEI needed her work. Absolutely. So she didn't limit herself to that space. And so with just making those adjustments within the first 3 months of the year, by March, she was at capacity in her business with new contracts, so much so that she had to refer work to others. Okay. This was an opportunity that came to her after what had seemed this administration had done everything it could to completely sabotage her success. So what was meant to actually destroy her ended up putting her in a much better place. I share that with you because I want you to understand the same thing is possible for you. So if you find yourself in a position right now where you're on the other end of this federal shutdown and you don't know what the future holds for you, if you find yourself on the other end of someone who actually was a let go in the midst of this, if you find yourself as someone who maybe had some contracts that were canceled, whatever situation, understand that this may not feel good right now. I'm sure it does not. But I also want you to know that it has provided for you the opportunity to think bigger. I want you to think of this as your declaration of independence. It's provided for you an ability for you to think beyond what anyone may have thought was possible. It provides for you the opportunity for you to really define what you really want to do, not just what you have to do. So it allows you to really move beyond other people's limitations about what they think you can do. It gives you in a space, puts you in a space of freedom where you no longer have to search for external validation, where you can really do what you want to do. It's going to challenge you to start thinking big and stop thinking small. I'm going to stretch you to sort of get out of the habit of dimming your light to make other people comfortable, and be very clear about how amazing you are and be willing to live in that. Because I want you to understand that as a business owner, when other people are making buying decisions, they have to be confident in you. And how can they be confident in you if you're not confident in yourself? It's not going to happen. Right? And it puts you in a position where you can build your dream instead of only spending your life building other people's dreams. Know that this could be actually, in retrospect, years from now, you could look back at this and say, this was the best thing that could have happened to me. If you approach this situation with the opportunity and the mindset that you are determined to come out of this better than what the others had in terms of their intentions for you. In the immortal words of Beyonce, the best revenge is your paper, right? So I do want to say that I have for you, if you've liked this at all, I have a free book for you I'm going to provide. It's called my Power Pivot Playbook. It's just an ebook that gives more depth about this pivoting concept that I've shared with you. So if you'd like more information, definitely be sure to download that. But if you decide that you also want some help with making that happen, I want to invite you to join me in the Revolutionary Vanguard. It's a membership opportunity where I'm working with individuals like you who are in that process of starting or growing their businesses in the midst of this challenging moment. So I think we're dropping those links in the chat. And I think now, if we have any time, I guess we could answer a few questions. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Avis. I hope you all got something from that. Some of the points that she made, money doesn't disappear, it redirects. So we've got to go where that money is, find out, do that future casting, and we've got to ready our runway, and we've got to monetize our networks. So thank you so much, Dr. Avis, for all those good points, the points I just mentioned, and more. You gave a wealth of information for people who are trying to pivot from employee to entrepreneur. So with that, ladies, I'm going to open up the floor for any questions that you have of Anne-Marie or Dr. Avis. And if you have a question, just unmute yourself and ask your question. Okay, I see hearts and thumbs up, but I don't see any questions. Okay, well, if no one has any questions, what I'm going to do now is I would appreciate it for all our participants. I want to thank you all for joining this evening. What I want to do is just get a poll in a survey of your reactions and how you feel about the sessions today. So I'm going to put some poll questions up. It'll only take you about 5 minutes, probably less than that, to answer the questions. So here we go. Can everyone see the question?
Mm-hmm.
If anyone can't see the questions, just let me know.
Looks like there are a couple of people that
I was
don't
able to see them and I answered all of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is Gail. I don't have a question, but I just wanted to say that this was fantastic. You hit everything that I needed. I just decided last week that I'm going to retire from federal service. I said I was going to stand strong, but in July, I went to a conference that my sorority had, and they had us use AI, and I figured out what my thing was that I'm going to do in retirement. And so this just moves me along. So thank you very much. It was really helpful. I'll download the book, and then I'll look and see what the movement is like. One thing you mentioned was don't leave your current job, start the business while you still have this income coming in. And would that still be the same thing if I know that I'm going to have some retirement money coming in?
I'm so glad you asked that question. No. The answer to that would be no, because you will have retirement income coming in. So to me, that's still having a source of revenue while you're ramping your business up. That's the main thing. I want to make sure that people have something coming in. And I think that makes perfect sense, honestly, given the situation. I can understand. I'm thankful that you're at a position where you can make that decision.
Yeah. Yeah, I was just saying, so I have family members who may be impacted, but I'm going to have to figure another way to help them out. So thank you very much. All of this was timely.
Awesome.
Any other questions for Anne Marie or Dr. Avis? Okay, with hearing no more questions, I want to thank Anne Marie Ortanez and Dr. Avis for giving us those great nuggets of advice today. I'm sorry, someone had a question? Go ahead. Did someone have a question? Was that Teresa?
No, I'm sorry, I didn't have a question, but I will ask, will the recording be provided? I started printing late.
Yes, we will be providing the recording.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, well, with that said, I want to thank you, Anne Marie Ortanez, Dr. Avis Jones DeWeaver, for sharing all of that information with us that you shared tonight. You gave us some great nuggets of advice and helped us get some tools to move forward in our job search journeys and to pivot from being an employee to an entrepreneur using those skills that we already have. It's not necessary always to go back to school. We have what we need, and a lot of times we may not realize we're already enough. So thank you for that. And with that, ladies, I want to thank you all for joining us tonight and look forward. We have our next session our next session is on October 30th, where we will be talking about the tools that you need to start a business. So look for that. Excuse me. Look for that. Sign up for that as well. We've talked about pivoting in our jobs, moving forward in our job search, what we need to look at if we're pivoting from employee to entrepreneur. And next week, on October 30th, we're going to give you those tools that you need to start your business. So with that, I want to thank you all so much. We'll look forward to seeing you next week and have a great evening. Bye.